Hey guys, I'm Dr. Kennington. I teach the upper level students here at Nomen Global. I've taught for about 20 years at BYU and other schools. And one of the classes that I teach here is called Applying for the Future. And in that class, we help students apply either for a job that they really want to target or for college. And that's what we're going to be focusing on this little lecture here. We're not going to work so much on jobs, we're going to look at college. So we should start off by recognizing that the year 2020 is a strange beast. All the rules have changed this year. Some schools are dropping requirements that they usually have. Some schools are asking for things they've never asked for before. So everything's a little bit different this year. But recognizing that, we're going to talk about what college application usually involves. A lot of the elements that go into a college application, we're going to look specifically at a few of them, okay? So we're not going to talk much about the ACT, the SAT, TOEFL, all those standardized test scores, because your other college or your other classes are going to be helping you with those. We're going to talk more about the other elements. And let's start with recommendation letters. So colleges usually will ask you to get 2 or 3 people to write a letter talking about you and what you bring to a class. A lot of students will simply choose some people who know them and ask those people to write letters about them. That's a very ineffective way to go about getting your letters of recommendation. There are actually 2 ways that you can influence the quality of the letters that are written for you. And both of them have to do with your preparation. So first, when you're thinking about who to ask to write a letter of recommendation for you, you need to have a vision, a clear picture of how their letter can help you. It's not enough to just have somebody say nice things about you. Any applicant to school can get a few people to say nice things. What really helps a committee is when people will tell stories about you or give specific facts and details that help them get a picture of who you are, what you've done, and what you will do in college. So think for a second about the reading experience. You've probably had both of these experiences when you've been reading. You might get to the end of a page or the end of the paragraph and you suddenly realize, I read every word and I have no idea what I just read, right? But you've also had the other extreme experience, which is you'll be reading along and you suddenly realize that hours have passed and you didn't even know it. You weren't even in this room. You weren't even in your own body. You were carried away into what you were reading. It's almost a magical experience. It's kind of like a dream or being hypnotized, right? And when you're having that kind of a reading experience, your comprehension, your understanding of what you're reading is phenomenal. You understand it very well, and you will remember it. Even years later, you will not only remember many of the things you were reading, you'll remember how you felt reading them. So reading can be widely different experiences. You might get nothing out of it, or you might have a tremendous experience that you get a lot out of. Your job as a writer is to give your audience the second kind of experience, the kind that they will be carried away by. They'll be immersed in it. They'll enjoy it, they'll understand it, and they'll remember it. So how do you give somebody that experience? What's the difference? It's not the subject matter. It's not whether your audience already is familiar or not with your subject. That's not it. If you think about it, you know the answer already. What is going on in your mind when you're having a great reading experience? Isn't there kind of a movie going on that you can see and hear and feel? It's like you're having that experience, not just being told about it, you're having it. Now, as a writer, you need to give that experience to the committee. You need to let them see and hear and experience something significant with you. And it's the same with a letter writer. If somebody's going to write a recommendation letter for you, they need to give a real experience to the committee. If they just talk about words, if they just say, he's a nice guy who's very helpful, that doesn't create a movie in the mind. But if your recommender says, I have seen his fellow coworkers get up from their desks and go to his when they have a problem. They always seem to have conversations that congregate around him. That's something I can see in my head. That's something I picture. That's something the committee can picture. That is a concrete detail that will stick in their mind and will make an impression. It's telling little stories and details like that that make a letter of recommendation really effective. So when you're thinking about who should I approach for a letter, think about what stories can people tell about me? What pictures can they paint in an audience's mind that will help them see me? Okay? There's a lot more we can say about letters of recommendation and all of this, but we're just hitting on some of the details here. So remember, think stories and think concrete facts and details. And when you have that vision of the stories and details that a person could tell about you, then when you approach them, don't just dump it in their lap and say, would you write a letter for me? Help them to see the vision that you have in your mind. So for example, you could say, I'm getting ready to apply to college, and I thought of you as a potential letter writer because you have seen me do, and then spell out some of the things that you imagine them putting into their letter. Help them to see, oh yeah, I can talk about that. I can tell that story, okay? So that's the first thing you can do, share the vision. The second thing you can do to help your letter writers write a very effective letter is make a list of those concrete stories and details and give it to them. Make sure that when they go about writing the letter, when they sit down to write your letter, they already have those things in front of them. It's up to you to do most of the work of a really good letter. Okay? All right, then let's talk about the personal statement. Now, this year, some schools have not even requested a personal statement. It's very strange. I have never in 20 years seen this happen. I assume that as soon as this pandemic is gone, they'll start asking for statements again. So what is a personal statement? A personal statement is a very short essay, usually 2 pages, double-spaced, maybe 3. It's an essay or a chance for you to tell stories about yourself. Okay? Now we're going to apply the exact same principle of the movie in the mind. Okay? We get a chance now to paint our own movie, to play our own movie for the college committee. What do you want them to see from your life? That's actually a really complicated question. What should you write your essay about? There's not an easy answer to that. When you're in my class, when we go through applying for the future, we'll talk about that and we'll help you find what the essay should be about. But I can give you a few clues now, how to get started on that at least. Number 1, it needs to be about you. At its core, whatever stories you tell, they need to show who you are, not who you were. That's an important difference. We want to know who you are, not who you were. That's why usually stories from your childhood, they may have been very important to who you were at the time, but they may not be so important anymore. They may not be a very good indication of who you are, what you care about, what your goals are. I should be able to read your personal statement and feel like I've had a conversation with you, as if you were in the room with me. I will come away feeling like I know who that girl is. I know what she cares about. I know what it would be like to spend time around her. I have a pretty good idea of what classes she's going to take in school, what group she's going to be part of, and maybe even what she's going to do after graduation. Another thing to keep in mind with your personal statement is it should be something you genuinely care about. And a good reader can tell when you're faking. There is a big difference between writing about something you think you should care about and something you actually do care about. There is an energy that comes through, and it's very clear to a good reader when you're being yourself and when you're talking about something really, something that you're really passionate about. Okay? So don't fake it. Don't try to look like something you think the committee wants to see. Have the confidence in yourself that if you show them who you really are and what really gets you fired up, they will get fired up too. They will see the value that you bring to their school. Okay. So let's switch to a different kind of essay that schools ask for, and that is called, I call it the Why Us essay. The University of Utah is asking for one this year, I believe, and BYU is also. A lot of schools are starting to do this. Basically, a Why Us essay asks you to tell them, why are you interested in our school? Why our school in particular? Okay? So here's how to approach that essay. This is all about research. You need to research that school well enough that you can talk intelligently about why you are a fit in that school. So for example, if you were to interview somebody who's already going to that school, or an alumnus, someone who went to that school, if you were to get online and look through their material very carefully to figure out what is it at their school that really gets me excited? What would I love to be part of? Maybe there's a group that does salsa dancing there, or maybe there's an internship or a chance to travel to Spain to study abroad for the summer. Maybe they have the best or one of the best dance programs in the whole country. Whatever it is, maybe they really like to focus on community service, and that's important to you. Whatever it is, you need to be able to be very specific. For example, I had a client not long ago who, in her Why Us essay, she talked about one of the professors who worked at that school. And she talked about some of the work that that professor was doing and the things that he was publishing. And she talked about how she would love to help in that project because her own background was a match. Okay? So take advantage of the Why Us essay to show us not only I'm a good fit for your school, but your school is a good fit for me. That's the purpose of that essay. All right, then let's move on to resumes. And as far as resumes go, get help with a resume. It can make a huge difference to work with somebody who's really good at it, who knows how to put together a good resume. So I'm not going to try to do that right here in 5 minutes. But what I will do with you is I'm going to show you how to get started on putting together a good resume. Most of you will probably create at least 5 different resumes in your life, at least. Every time you apply for a new job, every time you want to go to a new school, you're going to write another resume. And they're all going to be different. Everyone is going to be focused on your new target. You need to rewrite the resume. So, instead of waiting until suddenly you've got to come up with a new resume, this is something you should start right now. And so I'm actually going to give you guys an assignment. Your teachers will give it to you, and they'll change it however they feel they need to. But we're going to create what's called a master resume template. So the way it works is you start right now gathering together all the information that you will use in future resumes. So when you look at this handout that your teacher's going to give you, you'll see there's a list of questions. And those questions will help you start thinking about, what have I done in my life already that might be useful or might be relevant to a future employer or school? And write it down now, write down the details. Because here's what happens. 10 years down the road, you'll need a resume and you'll think, okay, I had a class in college, it was on this same subject that I'm applying for now. What was the name of that class? And who was the professor? And what was their name? And it's gonna be too late. It's gonna be so hard to go back through your whole life and collect all that information all of a sudden, right? So start writing it down. Get all that information down in one place and keep it your whole life. There'll be time after time you'll go back to it and it'll make your life so much simpler. Okay? So let me give your teachers a chance to hand that out to you. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Good luck with this, and I look forward to meeting you in Applying for the Future and Level 7. Stay safe, be smart. Thanks.